Alright, man, peace. You know, brothers, LeBron James' #1 fan, that being none other than Mr. Shannon Sharp, is very fond of saying that many times a man can find his destiny on the very road that he chose to avoid it. Well, when Mr. LeBron James decided that he was going to form the super team on the Miami Heat, aka the Heatles, back in 2010, what he did was he initiated basically a domino effect that has come back to hurt him and harm his own legacy in the long run. He was so desperate to ascend to a championship level ball player, understanding that he did not have the psychology to win, at least not within himself. He had to go and learn how to win from Dwayne Wade as well as Pat Riley. That what he did was he inspired a whole generation of players to do the same thing. One could probably guess or guesstimate that LeBron James has cost himself at least 4 titles due to the fact that he has influenced other great players to team up with each other, as opposed to trying to figure out ways to win it on the franchise that they were drafted by. Once again, I have no problem with a player executing their free agency rights. It is well within their liberties to do so, and they should do so to claim their own level of self-empowerment. But once again, when you decide that you're going to empower yourself, that's going to influence others to do the same. When Kevin Durant decided that he was going to leave Oklahoma City in 2016 and join the Golden State Warriors, that was pretty much the death knell on LeBron James being able to dominate that decade. And still, with Kevin Durant becoming a major part of the Golden State Warriors franchise and their quote-unquote dynasty, LeBron has still been able to win 4 championships over the course of the last 10 years. So he's had a relatively successful career. But this notion that LeBron has been robbed of regular season MVPs or even postseason MVPs has been one of the biggest fallacies that has been promoted by the mainstream liberal sports media. And we're going to see over the course of the remainder of this regular season, especially as multiple players continue to outplay LeBron James over the course of this season, they're going to start to try to concoct preemptive strike excuses for LeBron James, knowing that the writing is on the wall that once again he is not going to win a regular season MVP. LeBron James won his last regular season MVP in 2013, and he deserved to win it that year, beyond a shadow of a doubt. That was peak LeBron James. But since then, every player who has won the regular season MVP has richly deserved it. Kevin Durant in 2014, Stephen Curry in 2015 and 2016, Russell Westbrook in 2017, even though I thought that James Harden probably could have gotten the nod that year. James Harden won it in 2018 and richly deserved it. In 2019, I believe it was Giannis Antetokounmpo, and last year it was Giannis again. Each and every year, that particular player deserved to win it because that player had a better regular season than LeBron James. LeBron, for the past 7 years or so, has decided that he's going to conserve energy during the regular season, other than last year, where he went all out for the regular season MVP. He's always decided that he's going to conserve energy for the postseason, and that's led to him having some of the great postseason runs in modern basketball history. I've always said that his postseason run in 2018 is without a doubt one of the top 5 postseason runs that I've ever seen. Outside of the Jordan postseason runs his first 3 championship years, and maybe Olajuwon in 95, there are not many other postseason runs that I've seen that were on that level. Maybe Iverson in 01, maybe Shaq in 2000, maybe you could say Kobe in 09. One of those seasons are right there with LeBron's 2018, but he was unbelievable that year. All that being said, one can make a better case that LeBron has robbed other players of MVPs better than you can make the case that he's been robbed of MVPs. LeBron James won back-to-back regular season MVPs in 09 and 2010 in the 2 years that Kobe Bryant won the championship. And I'm not saying that Kobe had a better regular season than LeBron those 2 years. But had LeBron won back-to-back championships and they had given another player the regular season MVP, the mainstream liberal sports media would have been exclaiming from the high hills, from the mountaintops, that LeBron had been robbed. Nobody says that about Kobe other than Kobe Bryant's fanboys. No one says that. So we know for a fact that you can make the case that LeBron has somebody else's MVPs, at least one of them. In last year's NBA Finals, I will always maintain that Anthony Davis was the real MVP for the Lakers. He was more impactful on offense and defense. What LeBron James did was what he normally does, that being gas up his stats during the finals. And in his biggest offensive performances during those finals, I believe that they lost that game or lost both of those games where he played his best on offense. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. There is a growing sentiment that James Harden is the real MVP this regular season, and I agree with that. I'm not even quite sure if LeBron is top 5 in the league when it comes to what he's brought to the table this year. I have Embiid over him. I have Jokic over him. I have James Harden over him. To be quite frank with you, you can make a case that Kyrie Irving has been more impactful than him. You can make a case that Chris Paul has been more impactful than LeBron James. You can make a case that Donovan Mitchell has been more impactful than LeBron James. No one talks about Donovan Mitchell at all, even though his team has the best record in the NBA. That's how centered the NBA is around marketing. Everything with the league is about who gets marketed and who gets promoted. Kawhi Leonard is out here averaging 27, 6, and 6, and nobody talks about him. All we hear about is how big a failure the Clippers franchise is. But anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in. We're going to hear Mr. Shannon Sharpe basically admit that he believes that James Harden is the real MVP for this season. You're going to see the LeBron James fanboys constantly use the same excuse that, well, James Harden, he started off the season having some bad games with the Rockets. All this nonsense they're going to keep talking. At the end of the day, who's been the most impactful and the most important player for their team in the regular season? It's been James Harden thus far, especially with Embiid going down. So once again, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
James Harden has been unstoppable in his first 27 games for Brooklyn, and in last night's win against Indiana, he finished with another monster triple-double, scoring a season-high 40 points, handing out 15 assists, and grabbing 10 rebounds in 42 minutes. It was his 6th game for Brooklyn, where he scored more than 30 points and dished out more than 10 assists.
The modern-day NBA looks so much like an obstacle course out there. You see these players, they put the ball in between their legs 5,000 times. They beat their first man off the dribble. And then basically, you know, you're at the cup. You might have one guy to contest you. Like, it's nothing like it was back in the 80s and 90s. If Michael Jordan played today, he would have a fucking field day. Larry Bird. Imagine Nikola Jokic, except a far better athlete. And then you'd have Larry Bird playing today. I mean, those guys would eat so much today. I mean, even other great offensive players that very few people are aware of, like Bernard King, Alex English, they would just eat today.
Harden led the short-handed Nets to their 13th win in the last 14 games.
All that being said, James Harden is a dynamic, great offensive player.
Shannon, I gotta ask you, is Harden now pushing LeBron for MVP?
Well, Skip, here's the thing. The answer is yes. We've already conceded. James Harden is the better player. He will win the MVP this year. I hope not. I mean, we talked about his family last night. I told LeBron, look, nigga, the Brooklyn Nets are coming for that ass. So we have to think up an excuse for when we lose to them in the finals. If we make it there, let's think of something quick. Let's think of something early so that we can flesh it out, go off our script. Back in 2018, you know, we claimed that we broke our hand. In 2019, we act like we tore our groin. So we got to figure out something right now so that we can, you know, make a presentation before the media when we get swept.
I always had Harden in the MVP discussion because he was playing so well. I mean, he's running away. I mean, what is he? He's probably over 11 assists per game right now. And, you know, he's still giving you 26, 27 a night, 11 assists, you know, get your double-digit rebounds. He's probably like 7 rebounds a game now. So for me, he was always in the MVP discussion. And because Joel Embiid is hurt and is going to probably miss 2 to 3 weeks, Skip, I think that injury has taken Joel Embiid out of the MVP discussion.
No, it hasn't. What it's done is it's given you hope that if you talk enough about it on TV, you can steal an MVP for LeBron James. I'll say this, if Joel Embiid does not come back within the next 2 weeks and perform at the same level that he was performing at before the injury, it's going to really be a shame because he was having an outstanding season, both offensively and defensively. But really, all he can blame is his damn self. He's so irresponsible with his body, not even just talking about his health, but how he plays out there on the court. There was really no reason for him to try to do the maneuver that he did that got him hurt. It's like, bro, sometimes you just got to do a little up and under move. You don't have to try to tomahawk it on every fucking body. We saw LeBron James hit him with a dirty shot where LeBron basically tried to hurt him because he did not want Joel Embiid to try to make him out to be a poster. That's something that a lot of the other NBA players are going to have to be aware of with LeBron James, especially as he gets older. He does not want to contest people at the basket. He wants to push them while they're in the air because, he has such a self-victimization mentality. He thinks everybody is just out to quote-unquote embarrass him or disrespect him by trying to dunk on him. But Joel has to be a far more responsible player when it comes to his body, especially down the stretch of the season. He may cost himself an MVP award. But once again, I think that there are at least 5 players who are having a better season than LeBron right now. But do I think that he's completely out of it? No, not necessarily. But he has to come back and not miss a beat.
I just don't know if you, especially in a shortened season, you can miss as many games as he's going to miss and still be in the MVP discussion. So right now, James Harden is right there with LeBron.
Now, for Shannon Sharp James to say that James Harden is right there with LeBron, that's his way of saying that James Harden is having the best season in the NBA. Because he by far is the biggest LeBron James apologist and fanboy in the media. Nick Wright is close, but he's nothing like Shannon Sharp James.
I think it's because they're winning and the Lakers are winning. Now, Jokic has been phenomenal also. I just don't.
Jokic has had the best offensive season of any player in the NBA, even greater than Harden's. I believe that he leads the league in offensive PER. He's been absolutely unbelievable, Nikola Jokic.
Right now, I think they're in the 7th seed. So maybe a little higher than that, but it's been touch and go. But Jokic's been.
I have no idea what Denver's waiting on. I'm not sure. Maybe they don't have enough to offer the Wizards. But if I'm them, I'm offering Michael Porter Jr. I'm offering another guard. I'm offering first-round draft picks for the next 3 years to try to get Bradley Beal. Because if you can team up Jamal Murray, Bradley Beal, and Nikola Jokic, suddenly your team gets thrown in there into serious championship level consideration. I don't know if they're trying to hold out and not have to give up Porter Jr., or maybe they've offered that package to the Wizards and the Wizards have said no, that's not enough. I don't know what's going on. But the Denver Nuggets, they have to get the show on the road and not waste Jokic's prime years, which is what they're doing right now. Murray and Jokic are not going to be enough to seriously challenge for an NBA title. And we've seen this with the Nuggets over the course of the past 30-plus years. They had good teams back in the 80s with Alex English and Fat Lever. They had, nice teams back in the 2000s with Carmelo. Now they have another nice team with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Do you want to win a championship or no?
Phenomenal. The question that I have, and the question that I've had for the longest, are you only going to give James credit for what he's doing in Brooklyn, or are you going to hold what he did in Houston against him?
No, sir. The reason why people like you and Nick Wright keep bringing that up is because you know that that's the only chance that you have to stop him from winning the MVP. Because the way that James Harden is playing right now, he is the MVP of the National Basketball Association. I'm not going to say that it's not close when it comes to him and some of the other players. But I don't think that he's neck and neck with LeBron James. I'm sorry. I think that he's head and shoulders over LeBron. He's neck and neck with a couple of other players. But LeBron is around 6th or 7th in my view.
And that's what the voters, only the voters. I don't have a vote, Skip.
Thank God. I mean, we know what your ballot would say every damn year. LeBron first, please. LeBron second, please. LeBron third, please. LeBron all the way down to 422nd place. LeBron James. I love that man.
They can answer that question. Because if you're going to give him credit for the wins in Brooklyn, you also have to give him credit for the losses in Houston.
I'm not quite sure if I would give him all that much credit for the losses in Houston, especially in light of how they've been playing the last 20 games or so, Shannon Sharp. I'm on record as saying that James Harden quit on his team. And I'm also on record as saying I have no problem with him quitting on that team because he's 31 years old. He understands what he wants to do and where he wants to be. The only issue that I had with James is that he made up this excuse, or he allowed the excuse to propagate that he wants it out of Houston because their owner is a conservative. No, bro, just own it. You don't want to be around losers. You want to have a chance to win. And I'm happy for James that he's happy because he deserves to have an opportunity for at least 3 years or so to play with other very talented players and show what he can do and how amenable he is to various forms of offensive systems and things of that caliber.
And also, what happens when KD comes back? I don't know if we've ever seen a guy win the MVP as the second best player on his team.
Well, let me say this. At this point in KD's career, coming off of an Achilles tear, and from what allegedly might be a hamstring tear, Are we still going to say for sure that KD is the best player on a team with James Harden, a player who himself is highly lauded and highly decorated, has a lot of accolades himself? Like, James Harden is not, fricassee. He's a great player also. So the difference between James Harden and KD has always been very, very close. Very close. It's basically been those two when it comes to the debate of who's been the best offensive player of the last 10 years. The purest scorer in the NBA for the last 10 years. There's been a debate between KD and James Harden. So, with KD being injured and coming back and not necessarily being the healthiest in his history, I'm not quite sure if we can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that KD is the best player on the Nets right now.
Ever seen that before, Skip? I don't know if we have. Do you believe? Now, you say KD is the best player on the planet. Now, KD's on the Brooklyn Nets.
He's also on the bench.
So, do you plan on him being there for the rest of the year?
I don't know. They're saying at least 2 more weeks. So he's got a torn hamstring. So he's in the Embiid category. He's out of any MVP consideration.
Yeah. Well,
obviously.
Oh no, KD's been out of the MVP consideration, and that's unfortunate because I had him as the MVP front runner for the first month of the season.
When he comes back, if he could get back to 100%, would he be the best player on the planet? Yes, he would. But will he get back? It sounds like we're still maybe a month away from him coming back.
Yeah, I'm surprised, Skip. I thought they said strained hamstring. I guess.
Well, I also think that there may be some chicanery afoot because, especially with all of these games coming back to back to back to back, I think that they want to give Kevin some time to rest and be fresh for the playoffs, knowing that he's going to be their number one weapon when the playoffs finally hit. James Harden's he's just a workhorse. He's a fucking beast. He can play 4 or 5 games a week and nothing seems to affect him, knock on wood. Now they like to strategically sit Kyrie Irving because they know that he tends to have a litany of injuries that befall his body over the course of the season. But it would not surprise me that when KD finally does come back, that we start to see James Harden get some games off.
Term that nobody wants to use. Nobody used pulled hamstring. See, when you covered the league and I played it, he pulled his hamstring. Now it's just a strain. When good strain.
I just don't like that T word, tear.
Yeah.
If it's torn, if it's got a big old tear in it, because it sounds like that's what's going on here.
For him to miss that kind of time, it had to have a small tear in his skip. You don't miss he's out a month now. It's a month he's been out, and you say 2 more weeks. So, yes, James Harden is in the MVP discussion. He's been in the MVP discussion now for about the better part of a month, and I don't think he's going anywhere because whether it's...
Well, let me tell you why he's not going anywhere, Shannon Sharp. He's not going anywhere because he's been in the MVP discussion ever since the 2014-2015 season. I think that he's had something like 3 or 4 second-place finishes in the league MVP, quote-unquote, discussions. So, as of right now, he is the front runner for the NBA regular season MVP award. There's no doubt about that.
KD, or is with KD and Kyrie, he's been sensational. He's the driving force. He's going to be the reason they win this thing, Skip, because
he is. He's going to be the battery because his game is so dynamic. He can dominate off or on the ball. And he actually prefers to be on the ball, which makes him such a great asset because Kyrie does not want to play point guard. Kyrie wants to be a 6'2" Kobe Bryant.
Because he finds Joe Harris with, like, damn, I didn't even know Joe Harris was still on the court. He's still getting to he's still shooting foul shots. He's still getting to the line.
Skip, basically, he dominating, and we are scared, okay? I spoke to LeBron last night. We both cried on the phone. I said, shit, why is it every time we try to win and catch Jordan, the NBA do something? Let's call Adam. I mean, shit. Golden State came out of nowhere, then they signed that skinny nigga KD. Cost us 3-4 championships. Now KD back, and they got this nigga with a big old dirty beard tearing up the league. And we mad as hell about it, Skip Baylor.
Skip, he's smack dab in the middle of this MVP race.
Wow.
Smack dab in the middle. Translation, he's at the forefront of the MVP race, and I'm desperate to try to say whatever I can say to stop him from winning it. So I'm going to keep bringing up the shit in Houston. That's what that translates to.
Shannon Sharp is on his best behavior on today's show. He is shockingly objective. He is enlightened. He is telling the truth.
Now look at Shannon's body language as Skip Bayless basically is noting that Shannon has been forced to acknowledge the truth. Shannon is looking down towards his papers. He can't even look Skip in the eye because he knows the truth about what's going on in this NBA season. He knows that James Harden is having a better season than LeBron James is having.
Speaking the bottom of his heart, which is always the right part of his heart, and you just admitted that James Harden has at least pulled even with LeBron James in the MVP race. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he's right there. He's right there with you.
Right there is pulled even.
Mm-hmm.
I concur. Because now James Harden has played 18 games in Brooklyn with no Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. They're 14-4 without Kevin Durant. You can say that diminishes the magnitude of Kevin Durant. It actually just enhances the magnitude of the most gifted offensive player I've ever seen. I've just never seen anything like this. Is pure genius on display.
I'll say this. When it comes to a combination of scoring and passing output, Harden might be the best player of the modern era on offense. Now, if we're just talking about scoring, I would take Jordan and Kobe over James Harden. But if we're going to talk about a guy who can go out there and get 35 points and 15 assists and make it look easy, James Harden's the best that I've ever seen at that.
Night after night after night. He is toying with the competition. He has the game on a string.
Agreed. He looks like an absolute puppet master out there. He's just dribbling at the top of the key, and every other defender looks scared to death.
And he is distributing just as well as he is scoring. Skip, the thing that why he can do this, he used to be in a solo act. He used to not having KD. He used to not having Kyrie. So
absolutely. It's like having a damn rocket launcher in your back pocket. James goes out there and just shares the ball with Kyrie, shares the ball with KD. But this is a guy who in his history, on his resume, he has multiple 30-plus point per game scoring averages in the regular season.
It's not new to him.
But he will involve Kyrie, no problem.
Yes.
No problem.
Yes.
I'll get you. Because he's averaging, to your point, he's running away.
Yeah, ain't nobody catching him, Skip. It's over.
He's averaging 11 a game. So, to your point, he has an early season stain on his record.
Yep.
He quit his way out of Houston. He had one huge game at Portland that
44-17, the first game.
Whew. And then he said, that's enough. I just wanted to show everybody I'm still okay. I can still do this even fat. I got my little pot belly, but it doesn't bother me.
It don't bother me at all, yeah.
And then he quit his way out of Houston, and they shipped him where he wanted to go to Brooklyn, which is killing Deshaun Watson right now because he's thinking, if he could do that, I got to be able to do that.
Right, but Deshaun Watson and James Harden, those are two completely different narratives. And they're in the process of putting Deshaun Watson through a shaming ritual on his way out of Houston. They're basically letting him know, look, we're going to let you go. You're trying to bring that woke shit into the NFL, into our league, where you think that you can dictate what you want to do even when you sign a contract. So we're going to take our pound of flesh out of your ass. But I'll be covering that in the video that I do on Deshaun Watson because there's a lot going on there with him.
And he goes up there, and since he went to Brooklyn, he's averaging 25, 9, and 11. And in his last 13 games as a Brooklyn Net, he's 29, 10, and 11, which is called a triple-double. So for 13 straight games, he's averaging a triple-double.
He's been the best player in the NBA for the past month, by far.
And there have been 2 games with no...
Well, I shouldn't say by far, because Joel Embiid before he was hurt, and also, in my view, Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry's had an unbelievable season. When you look at their offensive roster and the fact that there are no other shooters on that team, and the way that the defenses play him when the Golden State Warriors have these games, like the other team, the opposition literally have 2 guys guarding Stephen Curry even when he doesn't have the basketball. Like the fact that he's averaging 29 on 48% from the field and all these other things, incredible.
AD and Kyrie, neither one of them, in which James Harden has pulled off impossible comebacks at Phoenix. Is Phoenix any good?
Yeah,
they're really good.
Number 2 in the West.
Okay. When he went to Phoenix with no KD and no Kyrie, they fell behind by 24. And I was watching the game saying they just quit.
Right.
They quit because they said, well, we don't have 2 of our big 3, so that's enough. Let's just take this night off. And James said, no, I got this.
Right.
And he never looks like he's playing that hard, but he does play full. Listen, you want to talk about a baller? he plays high minutes.
Skip, we played 42 minutes last night.
But it seems effortless.
Yes.
He does.
That's the one thing that I'm a bit concerned about. We know that D'Antoni, he likes to give his guys a whole lot of minutes. But, James Harden is a thoroughbred. So, to a degree, I'm not that worried about it. But the minutes can be a bit of a concern down the stretch of the season.
Like he's in the greatest shape.
Right.
It doesn't look like the great.
Or maybe that's the thing. Maybe they're just trying to play him into great shape for the playoffs. Knowing that, we're not going to be putting that much grind on him in the playoffs because we'll have KD and Kyrie back fully healthy, presumably, by the playoffs.
It's kind of a mismatched body it's got kind of a bigger
upper body
torso with a little let's get in there.
I don't know how skinny James's legs are. I just think that his body looks a little bit misshapen because of how big his belly is. He's one of those guys that even if he works out hard, he's going to appear to have a big belly.
And he's just
cooking folk.
Just cooks everybody. So they're down 24 at Phoenix, and he brings them all the way back to win by 4.
Yeah.
Is that good? Yeah. How about last night in Indiana? I have respect for Indiana.
Yeah.
They got Karis LeVert back. You guys didn't have to deal with Karis LeVert when obviously he came back from his cancer growth that he had removed. So he's back full force for Indiana.
Right.
And they fall behind right out of the box. They fall behind by 16 points. They're down 43-27. And there's no KD and no Kyrie. And what did James say?
Just took it over.
I got this. In the fourth quarter last night at Indiana, James scored 14 points with 6 rebounds and 4 assists. Well, for most ordinary players, that's a good game.
That's a good half.
That's
definitely a good half. Give me like
14, 6, and 4?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. And that was the fourth quarter, and every time Indiana made a run, by the way, they're down 2. Brooklyn down 2 going to the fourth at Indiana, and they kept pulling away, and every time Indiana made another run, if we could see what James would do, he would just toy with them. He'd just say, no, I got this. Here he goes. He just says, I'll just go all the way to the cup. I don't know why nobody can stop that, but he's
because of his change of pace. James knows that explosiveness is based in perception. If you can go at 60% speed and you can master 60% speed, when you accelerate, you're going to appear to be super fast. You have certain guys who never learned that trick about acceleration, like Derrick Rose, or to a degree Westbrook, even though Westbrook is better at it than Derrick Rose was. Derrick Rose went 100% all the time. That's why he blew out his tires. James knows how to conserve himself. He's like a sprinter. He's going to give you 100% in bursts, but for the most part, he knows how to relax and then explode, like what he's doing right here. When he's going in between the legs 500 times, that's when he's at his most relaxed. He just wants to give you a strong burst and finish at the cup strong.
To the rim faster than it. Look at this. Look at this.
Can't let him get to that dominant hand. You can't let him get to his
And then this is the coup de grace. Here's Malcolm Brogdon trying to.
Who's a good defender.
He's just D'ing him up. He's D'ing him up through the legs, between the legs. Goodbye. And guess who that was? Miles Turner comes to challenge him. That's 7 feet of challenge. And he floats it right over him. And look at Kyrie. He's out of his mind. Oh.
Kyrie goofy ass with his simp shirt on. And Skip said Kyrie's out of his mind. I have news for you, Skip. Kyrie's been out of his damn mind for a while now.
The bench saying, that's too good. That is just too good.
Damn, you almost forget they have Blake Griffin coming off the bench too. I mean, shit. Look at Shannon's face. Shannon like, oh shit. Them niggas got all-star team. Oh well, at least we got Space Jam 2 coming out this summer.
Baskets came with 3 minutes left, and then a couple of minutes left, and then 35 seconds left, and it's just like, no.
Yeah.
I got this. So I look at what he's doing. He's shooting a career-high 38% from 3, and he's always near 90 from the free throw. He's 87%. And do I need to bring up LeBron's at 36.5% from 3?
37, round up.
Okay.
Round up, Skip Baylor. 36.5 round up to 37. 37 rounds up to 40.
36.5.
We round up. We've always rounded up 0.5 or above.
And free throws, he's 69.6. Okay, I'll round up to 70.
That's the perfect number for us, Skip, because we Luciferians. 69.6, that's Cody, 666. So that's where we want to be, Skip Baylor. The horn God gonna bless us. Stop hating. By the way, 69.6 rounds up to 70. 70 rounds up to 80. 80 rounds up to 90. 90 rounds up to 100. We're the best free throw shooters ever in history.
But that's still not.
What we shoot from the floor? We're 50% from the floor.
But you always are, because you're the greatest driver of the basketball there ever was.
Absolutely. If you take this same LeBron James and take him back in time to the early 2000s, he'd probably be shooting around 44% from the field, because the lane would be too clogged for him to try to, those normal lower your shoulder. I call him Jim Brown out there on the basketball floor. This nigga just lowers his shoulder for everything, and the refs never call a damn charge.
Bully people to rim. He can't bully people, but he can just blow by anybody. I don't know how he does it, but he just...
Well, James Harden does his share of bullying, but he does it with more nuance, because he's far more highly skilled with the basketball than LeBron is. I saw LeBron James get shut down by that little white boy in Golden State, Nico Mannion, the other night. All you have to do is be able to move your feet and be willing to take a charge from LeBron, and you can stop his drives. Because his first step, he can't blow by anybody anymore. If you have a good defensive stance and you're willing to move your feet and take the physical impact from LeBron, you can stop his drives. But with James Harden, his handle's so good, it's almost impossible. Then if you try to reach in, he can step back, he can cross you over. Like, there's so many things he can do.
You're 6'9", he's 6'5".
Skip, I mean, the thing is with James, if he gets the step back going,
and by the way,
he had his mercy.
He didn't shoot it very well. He was 2 of 9 last night.
But you're still so concerned about it, Skip, because, he started that herky-jerky. You're like, okay, he about to go. And then, no, he's not going. And the next thing you know, he's by you and he's letting the floater up, or he's kissing it off the glass. And the minute you try to back up off him, he steps back and he shoots the 3 on you. Mm-hmm. So you're really at his mercy. And it got you, like I said, 14 more attempts last night. He made 12 of them. Whew. He's got it going like this. It doesn't matter who he's playing with, because he's done this for the last 7.5 years while he was in Houston, basically playing a lot by himself, with the exception of Chris Paul and Russ. Other than that, he didn't really have great offensive weapons like a Kyrie and a KD beside him. So he used to go in it solo.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, while he was in Houston, the best offensive weapon that he ever had as a teammate was Chris Paul. Now, certain people might say, well, wait a minute, Russell Westbrook was out there averaging 27, 28. Right, but that was gimmicky offense. That was, let's trade our center and basically play Russell Westbrook at center and have him go one-on-one against the opposing team's 4 or 5 man and gas up Russell's stats. So that wasn't real. That was gimmicky offense. That's why when they got to the playoffs, when they lost one player, their whole team broke down. When they lost Daniel House, they were a team that needed all hands on deck to even compete with the better teams in the NBA. It's just good to see James at this point in his life and his career, where he's willing to humble himself and mature, because he can see the bigger picture now.
As a matter of fact, he probably prefer it. He knows those guys are coming back, but he's like, man, you got me some shooters. You got Joe Harris, you got Shabbat, you got TLC around me. I'm good. You guys space the floor.
So, you know what?
Don't let the Nets get a rebounder. If they get that kid from Cleveland, don't even play the rest of the season.
You and your man LeBron need to hope for that KD comes back sooner than later, because if he'll come back, it will diminish James' MVP case, right?
We don't
Because
want...
if he has Kyrie and KD, then you'll say, well, okay.
Skip, fuck all that. We want KD's skinny ass to stay out the rest of the season. We want all the smoke, Skip Baylor.
We don't worry about him. James is going to do what he do.
Well,
but we got this tonight. Watch what we do tonight.
Watch this tonight, Skip Baylor. I'm predicting 42, 17, and 18. Miss Trip Dub gonna spend the night.
You know what we do tonight? Who owns that team in Charlotte?
Guess where Charlotte?
Yeah, Skip, who on that team? That bald-headed, cigar-smoking, red-eyed Negro, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. The guy that we're going to surpass in a couple years, Skip Baylor. We're coming for him tonight. Once again, LeBron James, 42 points, 17 assists, 18 rebounds. Miss Trip Dub going to spend the night in our hotel room, Skip Baylor.
Last night, Charlotte had to play at Denver. The schedule is rigged for you again.
Well,
Totally agree, Skip Bayless. Skip... Skip be speaking that truth when it comes to LeBron James. They definitely rigged the schedule for the Lakers in the latter part of the season, but you know what? It's understandable, because they did have to make the biggest sacrifice of any NBA team when it comes to playing this schedule and really only having about a month and a half off. So I get it to a degree. But the schedule is rigged in their favor. No doubt about that.
This is a gift.
What about when
It's
we
a
have?
gift.
Hold
So
on.
I know what's going to happen. LeBron will be up 20 in the fourth quarter, and he'll make 2 threes from the logo with 2 minutes left and 1 minute left to put them up 25 and 28 points.
What?
Probably something like that. And then look up at the owner's box and point at Michael Jordan, like a biatch.
Don't say anything when we play back to back. Did we not just play back to back?
Well, sort of.
What you mean, sort of?
You blew out Golden State. LeBron took 2 late threes to put you up 20.
And then we had to play again.
That's why the NBA took their time making the schedule for the second half of the season. They wanted to gauge how things were going in the first half of the season and make sure that they gave LeBron the benefits that they thought he would need for the second half of the season. So they give him 2 days off and have the Lakers face Golden State coming off of a back-to-back. Then the Lakers are playing a back-to-back where the second team in their back-to-back are the Minnesota Timberwolves, arguably the worst team in the NBA. So
It's not against who? Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay.
Minnesota.
Oh, look. Are they not, like you tell me, are they not in the NBA?
They're at the bottom of
They're
the barrel
still
in
in
the
the
West.
league.
Yeah, they're in the league.
Jeez, God.
Okay,
But
congratulations.
you know it's goes to
I
lose.
hear that every
It's goes to
time.
You
lose.
need KD back.
We don't need KD to
Yes,
do
Or
anything.
you're going to lose to James Harden because he is special.
Hold on.
hold up, Skip. What do you call a man 6'8" and 3/4, 255.7 pounds of pure unadulterated sexual chocolate? I call him the MVP, Skip Baylor. LeBron Ramon James. My man. Don't talk about our family.
Some voters are going to say, no, what he did was unforgivable.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's what you're hoping for.
And we do know LeBron's got all those fan
Oh, there you go. Hold on.
Thank you, Skip. A whole bunch of fanboys in the media. Between Chris Broussard and Shannon Sharp and Nick Wright, a lot of fanboys out there.
I'm just taking all these Minnesota jabs a little personally, Skip. You know, we did get Patrick Peterson to the Vikings. And,
I
you know,
like that.
I feel like the Cowboys would have maybe wanted him.
Congratulations.
As well. So
We
unfortunately,
confused him. You
that
got me.
one we did get. I'm
Yep.
just to remind you of that. Speaking of your,
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go over the course of this season and whether or not James Harden will be able to gain a greater stake or a greater hold in the regular season MVP race. So peace.